Hello, today I'm going to do some things from the garden to create an autumnal arrangement in a basket that I made some years ago. This is literally made from willow stems interwoven with the rubus tricolour stems, and I've made a base one as well which will just sit on there, and that just sits quite nicely, and then I can put my container into it, which is going to frame my whole arrangement. I decided today was the day because we are going to have frosts very soon, I'm sure. It's quite early for us to have frosts, but I think we are going to have some, so I thought, well, I'd just take the opportunity to pick some things from the garden and create an autumnal arrangement. So I'm starting off with the cornus alba, which is just getting its winter colour, so that is a good tip. That winter is on its way. I'm using this as an outline material. Normally through the summer the stems go green, and then as we come into the winter you get this wonderful red blaze colour. So using that as an outline material up to one side of the design, trying to make sure that they're sort of fairly evenly spaced. I am using foam today. I do use other mediums as well, but today I thought, well, we'd just use a bit of foam in here to hold the flowers. So you can just see I've just created 1/4 of the arrangement outline with the line material that is the cornus. So now I have another material that I have grown. This is the second year I've grown this, and this is an amaranthus. It's amaranthus velvet curtain. Isn't that just gorgeous? You do need to take all the leaves off it before you condition it, and for those of you that don't know about conditioning, when you prepare to do an arrangement, you should always allow your materials to have a good drink in a fairly cool place. So you recut the stems to take off any airlocks underneath in the bottom of the stem, and you can then put them into a cool place in clean water at room temperature for a good drink before you arrange them. So using the amaranthus up into the second quarter, upright quarter, and that's just going to hold over that. And of course I grew rather a lot of this year and haven't used much, so there is quite a lot out there. It grows in my vegetable garden, which is part of my cutting garden, if you like. So to go on from there, I have some of the hydrangea, which I'm going to use to help to cover my foam. And that can tuck, might even just take some of the florets off it and use them short in. The hydrangea is just at the right stage now for drying. If you cut it and stand it in about 1 inch of water, again without leaves, and if you stand it in 1 inch of water and let it drink up the water, by the time it's drunk that, it should be dried off properly. They are bracts rather than flowers, what we're drying. The flowers normally appear in the centre of each of these little, what appear to be florets. So just keeping that very low in the arrangement, just as a sort of a cover up and a base for everything else that I'm going to put in. You better have a quick look how I'm putting that in. I do enjoy using things from my garden, but at this time, of course, I'm not actually going out much, and so I'm not going to get flowers, and getting flowers here has always been quite a problem. It's quite a distance to go to get fresh cut flowers, so I do tend to only use them, go buying at certain times, and I haven't had the opportunity to. All my demonstrations for this year, of course, have been postponed, as have my workshops. So you can just see how that's covered up in there. I think I might have moved that one slightly as I did it, so I shall move that back in a second. And then as another cover material, this is a vegetable that I grow, that those of you that know me will know I use this a lot. This is the borrokale. This one is borrokale scarlet, and it has this wonderful dark, almost purpley aubergine leaf with a fantastic rough texture that gives me a good weight as well into the bottom, and it's a good foil for the autumn colours that I'm going to be using. And that one definitely has moved, so I need to stand in more upright. That's better. So clustering these across the arrangement, and again in the bottom of the arrangement, like most kale, which is of course is cabbage family, eventually the stems will start to smell in the water. Adding a little bit of Milton or something like that into the water does help to prevent that happening too quickly. Stocks are the same family as cabbage, and the stems of stocks will smell as well once they've been in water for a while. So I think they're in good company, the kale. So a traditionally shaped design, in that all the materials are appearing to radiate from a central point. So you can have a look at that. Now, to add a little bit of colour into the centre, I have apples, which I've put onto kebab sticks. Now, I prefer to use 2 kebab sticks, so make it 2-legged, because that helps to prevent it twisting in the foam with the weight of the apple. So again, quite low in the arrangement. Kebab sticks, I always find I use more of them in the autumn and the winter than I do in the summer, and quite often you find you can't get them in the winter, certainly, so I do tend to stock up during the summer months. I think the shops expect us not to be using them during the winter because we're not going to be barbecuing, but we do use them, of course, and so it's worthwhile stocking up. I find the pound shop, my local pound shop, does quite a good line, and normally has them most of the year, a little stock of them. Must put a cloth in the box, not to drop the secateurs into the box. So one more kebab stick with one more apple. So this, I suppose, is a bit of a harvest arrangement. I like harvest time, but I'm really a spring baby. Spring is my favourite season, but when we get these wonderful autumn colours coming through, that really does also inspire, doesn't it? Those lovely colours. So we've got apples just running through the centre. Put my cloth in my box instead of on my turntable, and then I have a little bit of a herb. This is the bronze fennel, which is going to give me another texture and another form, another shape of flower into here. And of course it will be dying out before too long. And these wonderful umbels, the seeds where the flowers have been, make a gorgeous shape out over the top of the basing that I've put in the bottom. That wasn't very well said, was it? So completing my outline really with the fennel. Don't be afraid to just trim a bit off if you find it's not quite where you wanted it. I do have, I'm very fortunate to have quite a large cutting garden. Which of course this year has barely been cut. So the apples have given me a really good shiny texture in amongst what are really quite rough looking textures. I did look for berries, but the birds have been there before me. Other than the rose hips, and the rose hips I'm afraid I had because I was making rose hip jelly with crab apples. So we've put a little bit of fennel in. And now for some dominant flowers, we have a dahlia. And I'm sorry, I really do not know the name of this dahlia. Let's find the smaller one. Of course, the smaller ones don't have as long stems. Just a bud to come in up near the top. No, you didn't go in, did you? But what a glorious colour it is. I don't know the name. It was one that I bought from an outlet, and it didn't have a name on it. It was in the bargain box. And I have to admit that last year I didn't bring it in. I missed. The ground was too frozen by the time I thought about going out to actually collect it, dig it up and bring it in to dry it off. So it had to take its chances out in the garden over winter, and it has rewarded me, but I think I daren't risk that 2 winters running. So I should think probably I must get it in this winter. It'll be a shame when the frost takes the last of them. They really are beautiful. Why is it when you want one to go one particular way, you always pick one up that goes the opposite way? But never mind, we'll use you where you want to go. I always remember a recording of Mrs. Spry, Constance Spry, who said that you know, flowers should be allowed to go where they want to go, not be forced to conform to some idea. Of course, in more contemporary design, we do tend to make them conform, but in more traditional design, I do like to let them decide for themselves which side of the design they want to be on. That's on the same level, but we'll try and get it down. Is that one going to be longer? No. Come on. Let's we've got the dahlias in. And then to finish off, and I'm not entirely sure I want to use them, but maybe I will. I actually grew quite a lot of the Amaranthus Love Lies Bleeding, the trailing Amaranthus, which has these wonderful, wonderful long trails and short trails. I have an awful lot of them in the garden. They are quite difficult to use in an arrangement like this. Wonderful in the front of a pedestal. Absolutely gorgeous in the front of a pedestal. But not quite so easy in a design this size. Linking up with the other Amaranthus, really. So quite an informal arrangement, although it is a traditional style of arrangement. It is quite informal, not very tailored. Amaranthus will of course dry, so you can actually dry it. You can either glycerine it with 2 parts of boiling water to 1 part of glycerine, which will then stand the stems into it and it will drink it up, or you can just hang it and allow it to dry naturally. Once it's dried, it is less malleable, it is a little more brittle, whereas if you glycerine it, you will get that softness. I've got one more but longer. I might just put that in and drape it around the side. Bring that colour there. So thank you for watching, and there we have my arrangement for the autumn, all done from the garden in a homemade basket. I'm a great recycler. The container itself is a mushroom pot from bought mushrooms. So thank you very much.